Hello, everybody. According to my machine here, the computer, it says I'm recording, which is great. This week's lesson is going to be on Islam, which is the third of the big three religions of the world. I previously covered Catholicism, which is Christianity, and Judaism. So this is the third one, the big three from Saudi Arabia. Okay. Second, you need to know that this is scheduled for November the 1st. So when you see this, it'll be November the 1st of November, right? And I have to remind you that after this week, November the 1st, November the 8th is the midterm. So do not be expecting a video. You will just be sent the midterm test. And for all the new people, the materials, the same questions from the videos that I send you. So as long as you pay attention and answer the questions week by week, you'll be fine, right? Read your material, okay? So let me proceed to this week's material, okay? All right. First thing I always want to do is minimize myself. That's enough of me. It's not a fashion show. Okay, so let me start the material from the beginning. Okay. Introduction to the world's religions. If you forgot the name of your class, sometimes students do. Okay. There's a reminder of what week it is, but again, I'm trying to emphasize the days. Okay, again, November the 1st. All right, so we're going to start here with Islam, okay? And of course, the most famous name that you hear when anybody talk about Islam, which is Muhammad. All right, and again, if you hear a sound, it's getting kind of warm in my room here, so I'm going to turn on the aircon. That's going to come off and on depending how cold or hot I feel. All right, okay. So the founder and prophet of Islam, Muhammad, who was born in 570 and lived to 632 CE, was born in Arabia, or as people like to say now, Saudi Arabia, at the age of 40. Not a real young man, not an old guy, but not a real young guy. He was selected by God, and in the Arabic scriptures, they refer to God as Allah. And he was chosen to be the prophet of true religion, right? Many religions will tell you the same thing. You know, Christianity is the only religion. Judaism is the unique religion. And then, of course, Islam will tell you they are the only true religion. I guess they consider the other ones not correct. He heeded, which means he listened to, took the advice, and command to preach, which means talk about the Bible to as many people as he could and spread the word, preaching only against idolatry and the oneness of Allah or God. Okay, let me explain this word idolatry to you and the extreme that Islam takes this. Okay. First of all, I'll give you an example in Christianity. In the Bible, it says, "You shall have no other gods before me," right? So Christians can get a little sensitive if, I don't know, you practice a little yoga and maybe you buy a Buddha statue, right? Or you go to India on a trip and you buy a Ganesh statue because you think it looks pretty, the elephant god. And Christians will say that is idolatry. You know, you're worshiping other symbols from other faiths, you know, and maybe you're not, you just like it, you know, or maybe you are, I don't know, but they're saying those are, you are worshiping gods before God, so you shouldn't have those and you should throw them away. Now, Islam feels the same way. But they take it one step further. Again, comparing it to Christianity, you can go into a Christian church and you will see many kinds of statues of God or Jesus Christ. And that's accepted. That's fine. You'll even see statues for certain saints, right? And you can also pray to the saints for help in certain matters. I mean, there's even, what is it? St. Thomas, which helps people in dating, finding a partner. But in Islam, for example, if you go to the mosque, which is the equivalent of the church, they will not even allow, if you say, I made a painting of Allah, or here's a statue of Allah, they think that is wrong. They think Allah is so perfect that it is a sin to try and draw him or put him in a figure like a statue. So that's what idolatry is, different extremes in different religions. But, again, when you have a religion saying we're the only true God, then why? So continuing, Muhammad's parents were of the Hashim clan of the Quraysh tribe. So these are family names, right? A tribe of people. Arabia at the time was like Mongolia. Many different tribes and races of people that Genghis Khan united into one Mongolia. And Arabia was the same way. People, different kinds of desert people and other people from different cities, right? Once laborers, this means workers, tribal members acquired the Kaaba in the 5th century. And this is a very high level religious item in Islam, and they became one of the most prominent and powerful tribes in Central Arabia. So see, once they acquired this artifact amongst all these different tribes, they became one of the most prominent, which is well known, famous, and then even powerful. Muhammad was orphaned soon after his birth and raised by an uncle, Abu Talib. I have found sometimes that I have some students, it might be an English issue, but they're like, teacher, how come you didn't explain orphan? Okay. Orphan means your parents don't want you. And, they can do it in a kind way and give you up for adoption, or somebody in the family can take care of you, like what happened here. I guess they gave him to an uncle. But I have a friend that was orphaned many years ago, and his mother, I guess, was not married and didn't have a job, so she just put him as a baby in a basket and put him outside of a church, right? So orphan can be on a few different levels there. Okay, as an adult, Muhammad became a respected and successful trader. On a trading journey to Syria, he was put in charge of the merchandise of a rich middle-aged widow named Khadija. She was so taken with him, which means she was so in love with him. That's an old way of saying, I'm taken with you. Doesn't mean I'm going with you to McDonald's. It means that you're in love with that person. And because she was so in love with him, she offered herself in marriage. Please marry me so that we can go to McDonald's legally. She eventually bore him 6 children. Bore, right? Doesn't mean I'm bored. Obviously not if they're making 6 kids, but it means that she gave birth to 6 of his children, 2 sons and 4 daughters. The best known of these children was his daughter Fatima, who became the wife of Muhammad's cousin Ali, who was regarded as Muhammad's divinely ordained successor. Divinely has to do with God, and ordained means chosen, selected by God to succeed Muhammad if and when he died, or was so sick he couldn't do his duties. So remember that in the future with what happens with Muhammad, okay? All right. So I'm just matching up my papers here. Let me see. Okay, continuing. Muhammad was known for his charm, courage, impartiality, and resoluteness. Okay, so I guess there's some words there I have to go over. Charm, charm is usually in the English language, is usually associated with women, that women have charms that men cannot refuse. So I don't know if this is a correct word to use here for a man. I mean, you might want to put charisma, right? Which means he has such a cool personality that people will listen to him and do what he asks. And then courage, we all know that, like the lion. Impartiality means he refuses to take sides, right? He just doesn't say, well, I like these people and I don't like the other people. He tries to give credit to both sides. And then resoluteness, which I think more people are lacking today in for a lot of reasons. It means in the simplest form, once you make a decision, you stand by it, you stay by it. You don't start changing your mind, every 10 minutes, okay? Continuing, he was considered a man of virtuous character, which means he had virtues and morals, who epitomized, which means he brightly shone what later would become the Islamic ideal. They would base the ideal Islamic person on him and his character, Muhammad. That's how respected he was. His personal revelation, okay, and a revelation is like a vision where something comes to you. It could be an angel, it could be something in your dream, right? Different things. If you remember, Moses met an angel that was in the burning bush. So will be Muhammad's personal revelation came while he was meditating in a cave outside the city of Makkah, or what we pronounce today as Mecca, when he was 40 years old. He had a vision of the angel Gabriel, who said, recite. Recite means like telling someone, repeat after me, repeat, right? Or read this document. Muhammad refused, listen to that, he refused 3 times until the angel said, recite in the name of thy Lord who created. The words that were given to Muhammad declared the oneness and power of God, to whom worship should be made, and the judgment that all must face. The Quran called Muhammad the unlettered prophet. Okay. And we will get into that explanation right now. It'll show you how more impressive it is about him personally. This makes his recitation or reading more credible, the thinking goes. For if he was unable to read or write, and that's what unlettered means, he could not have changed the words of Allah, but received the revelation directly. So if this is still confusing for you, it's like this, okay? For example, like I can read and write, all right? So if Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, came to me and told me, now I could be lying to you. Why? I could tell you something which is not exactly what he said, right, and write it. But if I cannot read or write, I cannot invent a different answer. So they're saying he was innocent and did not have the ability to change it. So the words must be true. And you'll find that this is a theme in any religion. I don't care if it's Judaism, Islam, Christianity, or Indian religions. They always talk about the truth of it. It has to be 100% true. They don't like things that are kind of cloudy or, well, maybe, we're not sure. It gives truth to their religion. Okay, so again, as it says, he could not change the words of Allah, but received the revelation directly. Indeed, Allah says to Muhammad in the Quran, which is the holy book of Islam, never have you read a book before this, right? He's telling him this because he knows he cannot read, nor have you transcribed or written with your right hand. So he never even knew how to hold a pencil. Had you done either of these things, the unbelievers might have justly doubted. See, so they could doubt because men will lie. Men are imperfect. But the believers will have to trust you now because they know that you do not even know how to hold a pencil, right? So you cannot change the word. So very interesting information, you know, if you're a historian. So I try to give you the most interesting facts, right? All right. Continue this. Following his revelation, Muhammad began preaching. And again, that's talking and spreading the word of the Quran, not the Bible. It was a turbulent, which means a maybe violent or maybe just, you know, busy and chaotic. Right now, we are living in a turbulent time. Why? Because we have the COVID pandemic. So this is not a time of relaxation, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going through a lot of violence. It just means that our life is turned upside down with these rules and regulations and people dying from the disease. So it was a turbulent time of military conquest. Okay, so there was military conquest. So that's this is the violent side. And then political expansion throughout the area. And Muhammad met with opposition, which people were against him. He and his followers fled or escaped the persecution or attack and migrated to Medina, where his teachings began to be accepted and the first Islamic community was founded. So that means when he first was preaching in his city, a lot of people did not like it, did not accept it, maybe even if they had no religion at all. Okay. All right, let me sneak a question in there before I continue on this page. All right, so just matching up my material, whiteboard, pencil. Okay, question 1. Okay, I can easily stretch this into a onesie. Who was the founder of Islam? That should not be difficult. Don't tell me it's KFC Harabuji or the king from Burger King. Okay, so go ahead. I'll give you a few minutes on that. All right, you probably got a hold of that. That wasn't that hard. So let me get the eraser. Repeating, who was the founder of Islam? Okay. Let me go back to the material. All right, continuing. So again, Saudi Arabia in the 17th century was polytheistic, which means that people believed in many different gods. Poly means many, theistic means belief or religion. Hosting many religions, including Christianity, Buddhism, wow, even Buddhism back then, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is a long ago religion, I think, that's still practiced in Iran. A lot of it has to do with the belief in fire. Fire is a central belief. Geographically, it covered an area that bordered on the Byzantine Christian Empire, Yemen, and the borders of Zoroastrian Persian. See, Persia, now modern day Iran. Muhammad traveled widely and studied many Jews, right? Again, Islam came after Judaism and Christianity. The major achievements of Muhammad were the founding of a state religion. I mean, a state and a religion. He was politically successful, created a federation of Arab tribes, just like Genghis Khan did in Mongolia, and made the religion of Islam the basis of Arab unity. He died in 632 in Medina, or 632, I should say. What followed was an amazing expansion of the Muslim faith throughout a large part of the world, from Spain to Central Asia to India, Turkey, Africa, Indonesia, Malaya, and China. The same areas where the Muslims were very active traders. Trading can spread religion. But the expansion was also due to the suppression of alternate faiths or religious faiths. Jews and Christians were given a special status. They had to pay a tax to maintain their religious autonomy. So you see, it's not just, okay, you're not Islamic, you're a Jew, you're a Christian, you can practice your faith. No, we're going to tax you. You have to pay to do it. It's not free. Other religions were given a different choice. Accept Islam or die. That's a pretty easy acceptance. In the early days of the faith, Islam became a part of both the spiritual and temporal aspects of Muslim life. It was not only an Islamic religious institution, but also Islamic law, state, and other government institutions, which is different. Like the United States has traditionally been a Christian country, but there's always been a separation of church and state, not with Islam. Most of the laws come from the high-level Muslim priests. Just look at Iran, for example. It wasn't until the 20th century that the religious and secular, which means non-religious, were formally separated. Even so, Islam actually draws no absolute distinction between the religious and temporal parts of life. Again, you should actually follow the Islamic way. That would be kind of like when the US started really expanding with taking immigrants. There was no demand that they have to be Christians. They just let them come in, you know. So here, it's like, you better become Islamic, otherwise, you know, you might die. And if maybe, because we have a history with Judaism and Christianity, you're going to charge you a lot of money to practice it. So again, the Muslim state is by definition religious. So that means the government, okay? Okay, so before I get into central beliefs, I have another question here. We'll get to that. Back to that whiteboard. I'm missing that pencil. Temujin likes to steal my pencil. Mr. Hong also likes to steal my pencil. This will be question 2. think that looks good as a two, so I'll leave it as a two. I mean, I don't know. Could I stretch it to one? It's going to be a long one. I wonder. Ooh, it's a long one. Okay. All right. So what were the major achievements of Muhammad? So let's not get silly. And I think he graduated high school and then he went to USC and then he graduated with a business finance degree. Okay, let's not be silly. So uh, tell me the major achievements of Muhammad. This does not mean the minor ones. Okay, so go ahead. Okay, you guys doing okay on there? You don't have to, it's not a big list, okay? It's just the major ones. All right, let me go. Let me go for the eraser. Okay, repeating, what were the major achievements of Muhammad? Okay, back to the material. Okay, now I can get into the central beliefs. Islam is a monotheistic religion. Mono means one. So you worship one and only one God, and the name is Allah. So it says here, Allah is the sole God, the creator, the sustainer. To sustain means to keep people alive. And the restorer of the world, which means to restore or rebuild. The overall purpose of humanity is to serve Allah. So I want to make this point to you. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but uh, you'll get a lot of people, let's say American people, that don't really have a lot of knowledge about Islam. And they hear a little bit from somebody, and then they like to go around and say, oh, Islam is the religion of peace. So when I hear them say that, I realize, or the religion of love, right? They're incorrect. They don't know enough, right? And here's the statement. The overall purpose is for humans to serve Allah. There is a word that's even higher than that. It's called subjugation, which is which means that, like you get on your hands and knees. That is the overall purpose. It's not that, oh, it's to love your brother and that's Christianity. Okay. This is quite different. So to worship him alone and construct or build a moral lifestyle. The 5 pillars, which are the strong points of Islam, were set down as the anchor for a life as a Muslim. Anchor, if you do not know, is the big iron, it's not a cross, it looks like a fishing hook that ships will throw overboard on their ships, even giant ships, cruise ships. And it sinks into the water and into the sand on the ocean floor. And it's to keep the boat or ship from moving. Okay. And so this is an anchor, not for a ship, but for your life, to keep you not moving in the direction of sin or not practicing your faith. A Muslim should express belief in them and uphold them in daily life, right? Daily life. And here they are, the 5 pillars. 1, profession of faith. So that means you have to say, I am a Muslim, right? This is my faith. You have to say it, that there is no God but God. Muhammad is the prophet of God. Sometimes a variation is used. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. Either way, they mean the same thing. And that's the first pillar. 2, prayer. A Muslim must pray 5 times a day. I know some Christians that don't even pray once a day, and they should. So imagine 5 times a day. And that's why they, if you've seen them, they have a prayer rug that they have to bring with them because they want to kneel and subjugate, right, their lives in an attempt to pray. That's why they get on their knees. A Christian could pray standing up or sitting down, right? But Islam is true subjugation or serving of Allah. And you must be facing, I think it's east, which is where Mecca is, before sunrise, just afternoon, later in the afternoon, immediately before sunset, and after dark. I know people that, let's say older folks, they have to take medicines different times of the day, and they can't, maybe 3 times a day. I have to take a breakfast one, a lunch one, a dinner one, and they can't seem to do that. So imagine having to pray 5 times a day, every day, and be in the right direction. Next 3 is the zakat. Each Muslim must pay a zakat, which is an obligatory, which means you have no choice. You have to pay it tax once a year to the state government. So like if you're in Iran or Saudi Arabia, you have to pay the government once a year because, again, they mix the faith with the government system. 4, fasting. A Muslim must fast, and that's when you go without eating. Doesn't mean running a fast race. So a Muslim must fast for the month of Ramadan, the 9th Muslim month. Fasting begins at daybreak and ends at sunset. So you do not have a breakfast, you do not have a lunch. During the fasting day, eating, drinking, smoking, my God. So I guess you're allowed to smoke as a Muslim, but during the Ramadan, you can't. I don't know how that's possible. Because I worked with a number of guys, and I worked with this one guy, and he smoked 2 packs a day. I think, I'm not a smoker, but I think each pack has 20 cigarettes. So that's 40. Sometimes he smoked a little bit more, maybe 45, but on average, he smoked 2 packs a day. And at the end of the month of every year, the end of February, it's a quit smoking weekend. So he tried doing that, and I worked with him on the weekend. And the first day, he was okay. The next day, he was shaking, nervous, body. And 3rd day, he had to smoke a cigarette or 2 because he just couldn't handle it. It's an addiction. So imagine here, as Ramadan goes on for a whole month, I don't think he could do it. He'd probably get in trouble. And then finally, oh my God, sexual intercourse are forbidden. Okay. I'm not a Muslim. I don't know the specifics. But I'm guessing this means you cannot do this even with your husband or wife, So I don't know. If you really love each other, you're not supposed to do it for a month, right? 5, Hajj. Hajj means pilgrimage. A Muslim pilgrimage must make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in his lifetime, provided he is physically and financially able. Okay. So what a pilgrimage is, and Islam is not the only faith that has a pilgrimage. Christianity does. Judaism does. So I'll make it simple. you can, like here, when I was in a small town, I used to go to a small town in Mexico. Okay. And they were very Catholic. Okay. And they did a pilgrimage once a year where people walked barefoot. It's a small town. So they walked the whole town barefoot, and they were mimicking Jesus Christ walk with the cross before he was crucified. Okay. So that was their pilgrimage. This pilgrimage for Islam means you have to go all the way to Saudi Arabia. You must go to the city of Mecca, where they have the artifact I talked about earlier in the reading. It's sitting there. But they say, you should go, and it's a high responsibility. But if you're not physically able, maybe you're handicapped, or you don't have the money to do it, then, then it's okay. All right. But it's very important to do this. And I've known some Muslim people that have done this a few times, 2 or 3 times. Very important. Okay. All right. So I got a question in there. I think you can guess what the question's gonna be. Shouldn't be a tough one to figure out. Again, I try to keep it simple, right? Yeah, I should be able to stretch this. What are the 5 pillars of Islam? So just give me the 5 pillars. Don't have to define them, okay? Otherwise, we'll be here, all day. So just write the 5 ones down. The definition you just can read on your own time. All right, go ahead. Okay, you're almost finishing that up. Okay, let me get the eraser. Repeating, what are the 5 pillars of Islam? Okay. Trying to go back to the material. All right, let's proceed with the holy writings. The Quran, or Quran, or Quran, as we say in English, is the holy book of Islam. According to one Muslim tradition, it was written by God and revealed to Muhammad by Angel Gabriel from his first revelation at 40 until his death at 62. In another of the many traditions regarding the writing of the Quran, Muhammad had the revelations written down on pieces of paper, stones, palm leaves, or whatever writing materials were available. He indicated to the scribes, the people who actually, once he gave them the stones, leaves, paper, they wrote it. Those were the scribes. And so he indicated to them or told them the context in which the passages should be placed. There was a certain order, okay? After the prophet's death, it was decided to find people who had learned the words by heart and to locate written excerpts from all parts of the Muslim empire. The resulting information was edited to complete a correct edition of the work. Thus, or so, an authoritative text of the Quran was eventually produced. It was held in very high regard. Its Arabic language was considered unsurpassed in beauty and purity. To imitate the style of the Quran is sacrilege. Sacrilege is a word that it's a very high offense against the religion, right? It's a sacrilege. It's like saying God is evil, right? It's like, oh my God, that's a really, really terrible sin, okay? The Quran is the primary source of every Muslim's faith and practice. So you go back to the Quran for your information. It's the source. It deals with the subjects that concern all human beings: wisdom, belief, worship, and law. However, it focuses on the relationship between God and his creatures. And realize this, some people, modern people with not a lot of education, get upset. I'm not a creature. All the things that God created, because the word creature comes from his creation, we're all creatures, you know, the fish in the sea, humans, you know, elephants, you name it, we're all his creatures, even the plants. So it's not an insulting term. Someone told me you're one of God's creatures, and say, yes, I am. I was not created in the factory. It also provides guidelines for a just society. Just means you have laws, proper human relationships, and equal division of power. The Quran also posits that life is a test, and everyone will be rewarded or punished for their actions in the next life. For example, on the last day, when the world comes to an end, the dead will be resurrected or brought back to life, and a judgment will be pronounced on every person in accordance with their deeds. Deeds are their acts. So they will bring you back to life. I guess put the spirit of God back in your life. And then, like going to court, they will say, you know, you're a good person, you're a bad person. This was bad, this was good. And then you will find out if you're going to go to the Islamic hell or paradise. Here's an essential fact. Mecca is the birthplace of Muhammad and is the most sacred city in Islam. According to the tradition, Muslims around the world must face Mecca during their daily prayers, like I said, east. Every year during the last month of the Islamic calendar, more than 1 million Muslims make a pilgrimage to or Hajj to Mecca. Muslims are obliged to make the Hajj once in their lifetime. Okay, continuing. Another source of Islamic doctrine is the Hadith, a report or collections of sayings attributed to the Prophet and the members of early Muslim community. The Hadith is second only to the authority of the Quran. So Quran is the most powerful, Hadith is the second. It is considered the biography of Muhammad, created from the long memory of the members of his community. Hadith was a vital element during the first 3 centuries of Islamic history. And its study gives a broad index into the philosophy of Islam. To the non-Muslim, the Hadith is an introduction to the word of Islam or world of Islam with almost encyclopedic inclusiveness. So like an encyclopedia, it talks about every important point. Provisions of law are the primary element dealing with the moral, social, commercial, and personal aspects of life, and the theological aspects of death and final destiny. Where are you going? Your soul. The content of the hadith, or the content of the hadith, has the kind of minutia. Minutia is a word that means very, very tiny detail. So the kind of minutia found in there. And there is evidence of the impact of Islam, of Jewish and Christian philosophies, and theology, particularly as they relate to the Last Judgment. Together, the Quran and the Hadith form the basis of Islamic law. Okay, so I'm gonna pop a few questions in there. Okay, get ready. So it feels like I'm getting hot again. So let me turn this aircon on. Okay, did I get my pencil? Yes, I did. All right, question 4. Oops, that jumped. Okay, let me stretch this. Bad computing. Why did you jump? All right, name the holy book of Islam. Okay, what is the name of the book? That should not take you long. Okay, like I said, that's a quick one. Let me go back to, I gotta give you 2 this time. Question 5. Explain the hadith. What is that? It's kind of hard for me to talk about it without giving you too many hints to the answer. So just explain what it is. Okay. Okay, you think you got that? All right, let me get the eraser. All right, so please name the Holy Book of Islam. Just give me the name. Don't have to go in any type of definition. Should be a short answer. Next, explain the hadith. Explain what it is, if it's important or not. Okay, so we've done 5 questions. That means we're halfway through. Good deal. All right, let's move on to worships and practices. The Quran forbids the worshiping of idols, which I talked about earlier. Idolatry is the word, which means Muslims are not permitted to make images either of Allah or the Prophet. You'll see no paintings or statues of Allah or the Prophet. It's considered sacrilegious. Some Muslims object to any form of representational art because of the inherent danger of idolatry. For this reason, mosques are often decorated with geometric patterns. This is instead, okay, of having these paintings like you'll see in a Christian church. A great sin is Islam. In Islam, it's something called shirk or blasphemy. Again, blasphemy is any words that are against God or Allah or Muhammad the Prophet. The Quran stresses that God does not share his powers with any partner. It warns that those who believe their idols will intercede for them or help them will find that they and their idols will become fuel or fire for hellfire on the day of judgment. So you probably go to hell if they find out that you were, and again, you can do the same thing like a Christian. You were, worshiping a little bit Buddha, right? Because you got into Buddha from yoga or Ganesh for some certain favors. That's considered very bad. Different grades of shirk have been identified in Islamic law. The shirking of customs includes all superstitions, such as a belief in omens. Omens is somebody says, I have a feeling something bad is going to happen, right? That is considered an omen. So should not do that. The shirking of knowledge, for instance, is to credit anyone, such as astrologers, with the knowledge of the future. So again, they're trying to say only God knows what's going to happen in the future. Not an astrologer, not a witch, right? Not a psychic. Many of Muhammad's restrictions in the Quran were explicit or very clear in establishing distinctions between Arabs and Jews, as shown, for example, in his dietary rules, which borrowed heavily from the Mosaic law, which is Judaism. The most radical difference between the Quran and Mosaic laws has to do with intoxicating or alcoholic beverages. Jews frown or do not like an alcoholic beverages, but they do not forbid them entirely. Wine is an important element in many Jewish rituals and feasts, but I guess not beer or whiskey, right? However, Muhammad's absolutely forbade. It's forbidden the use of such beverages. Not supposed to drink anything. Okay, now we go on to prayer in mosques. Prayer has been described as an act of communication by humans with the sacred or holy. The Islamic Quran is regarded as a book of prayers, as is the book of Psalms in the Bible, considered to be a meditation on biblical history turned into prayer. Prayer obviously takes as many forms as there are religions. Muslims are expected to pray 5 times a day at definite times, wherever they happen to be. In addition to that practice, on Fridays, all Muslim men are also expected to attend the mosque for the after midday prayer. Friday is not an identifiable holiday in the manner that Christians and Jews, for instance, consider the Sabbath. In Islam, businesses may go on as usual and after the midday prayer. So again, Christian holidays, usually businesses are closed for the whole day. But in Islam, that's not the case for Fridays. Okay. Islam teaches that the whole world is a mosque because a person can pray to God anywhere. That's a key. Islam makes no distinction between what is sacred and the everyday. However, every mosque has an area with a water supply so that the devout may wash their hands, feet, and face before prayer. Muslims may use sand for washing if water isn't available. Here's a neat fact. The first mosques were modeled on Muhammad's place of worship, which was the courtyard of his house in Medina. The first mosques were just plots of earth marked out as sacred. At the mosque, the worshipers align themselves in rows, spaced so they may kneel and bow without touching those in front of them. Okay. Just checking my book here. All right, I guess I can go to the next, it's not long. All right, there is no prescribed architectural design for mosques. So that means there's not an exact design how a mosque should look. They can look different. They generally have a minaret in an elevated place. That's the like orange sliced moon on the top. Usually a tower for the kriya or muezzin to proclaim the call to worship. That's where the person sings or yells out the daily prayer. The muezzin stands at either the door or side of a small mosque or in the minaret of a large mosque. He faces each of the four directions in turn: east, west, north, and south. To each direction he cries, Allah is most great. I testify that there is no God but Allah. I testify that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. Come to prayer. Come to salvation. Allah is most great. There is no God but Allah. Okay, so you know it's question time. Okay. Pencil. Question 6. Okay, that looks good as a 2. Muslims are not permitted to have what inside a mosque? What cannot be inside a mosque? I'll give you a hint. Compared to what can be inside a Christian church. They cannot have the same thing. Okay, that's a big hint for you right there. Okay. All right, so let me give you a few on that. I think I've cooled down enough. Turn off the aircon. Okay, move on to question 7. This one's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, very easy peasy. Okay, that also looks good as a 2. How many times are Muslims required to pray in one day? So again, I don't want the silly stuff. They're not really, just once a year, you know, or okay, maybe one time a day. I don't know what's going on. Okay. I stated it a few times. That should be easy. Just supply me with the number, or as they say in New York, the number. Okay, and we'll be fine. Don't have to go into a big definition of why or what direction or okay. Okay, you think you got that? All I had to do is supply a number, so I'll go for the eraser. All right, repeating, Muslims are not permitted to have what inside of a mosque? Don't say silly things like a dog or a snake or a cat. No pets allowed. Not what I'm talking about. And 7, how many times are Muslims required to pray in one day? Okay. All right, let me proceed. Now we're going upon the developments of modern Islam. Be a Muslim, or at least a reasonably devout one, is a way of life. Whereas other religions usually have at least an implied division between the secular and the religious, that is not the case with Muslims. Daily life is where Islam resides. That's the important part of Islam, is daily life. The religion is about a way of living. The Quran and the Hadith provide the guidance to carry that out. Okay. Now I'll move on to Islamic law. Islamic law is founded on the Sharia that is based on the Quran, the Hadith, and the advice and wisdom of scholars. Allah is seen as the supreme lawgiver. The integration of this philosophy is directly related to the demographics of the country where Islam is being practiced. In countries where Muslims are the minority, the integration of religion and secular activities will be less than where Muslims are the majority. So what they're saying there is, in a majority Muslim country, you're going to get a majority of Muslim laws. If they're a minority in a country, it's just going to be on a very small scale. Money comes under the guidance of the Quran, which forbids usury and the charging of interest. So if you've got credit cards and it's like, my credit card charges me 24% a month, in Islamic law, you're supposed to get credit without interest. Would you change your religion just to get credit cards with no like tax? Okay. Naturally, this can be difficult to implement or use in a world market, of course. The majority of the world does charge tax. In the Quran, business dealings and their outcome are described as seeking the bounty or treasure of God. Wealth should be first used for the support of family, then shared with those in need. The Quran also forbids gambling. Okay. Let me see. I don't want to get us mixed up. Okay, so I got a question before I move on to family life. Pencil time. Question 8. Again, straightforward question. What is Sharia? Okay. Doesn't have to be a long definition, just enough that I get the meaning. Okay. All right. Give that a go. Okay. Think you got a hold on that? Hope so. All right, we get the eraser. All right, what is Sharia? Again, no silliness. No, that means everybody shares together. All right. Now we can proceed with family life. Family life is an essential part of the Muslim way of living. All family members should care for one another. Prophet Muhammad made particular reference about a man taking care of his mother. Animals too are to be respected and treated in ways that do not violate their lives in the family or community. Animals used for food must be slaughtered or killed in a correct way, which is called halal. pig meat and alcohol are strictly forbidden because they feel that, at least for the pig meat, that no matter how much you cook a pig, the meat, you cannot fully, unless you burn it, then you can't eat it, right? Take out the microbes or worms that are in there. And then also they feel that pigs are a dirty animal because they will lay down and sleep in their own doo-doo. So not considered a animal that you want to eat. Okay. Continuing, Sunnis and Shiites. Of the two major or main groups within Islam, Sunni Muslims compose 85 to 90% of all adherents or believers, and Shiite Muslims about 10 to 15%. In the late 20th century, the Sunni made up the majority of Muslims in all nations, except Iran, Iraq, Bahrain, and perhaps Yemen. All told, they numbered nearly 1 billion. Sunni Muslims viewed themselves as the traditional, mainstream, pragmatic branch of Islam. In fact, they became known as the orthodox element in Islam. This claim, however, is in dispute since all orientations in Islam are the result of the common Islamic origin. Right. Religious and political differences. In early Islamic history, Shiite Muslims were the more political of the two groups. When the problems arose over the rightful successors to Muhammad, the Sunnis said that the first four caliphs were Muhammad's rightful successors. Whereas the opposing minorities, the Shiites, believed that Muslim leadership belonged to Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali, and then to his descendants. This disagreement led to continuous internal wars that proved to be largely unsuccessful from Ali's point of view. However, Ali's status was eventually recognized and he became a major hero of Sunni Islam. In contrast to the Shiites, who believed that the leadership of Islam was determined by the divine order or inspiration, the Sunni regarded leadership as a result of the prevailing Muslim political realities. Historically, the leadership was in the hands of the foremost families of Mecca. For the Sunni, balance between spiritual and political authority afforded both the correct exercise of religious order and practical maintenance of the Muslim word. So let me proceed to some more questions. Okay. Question 9, which means we're going to have one more question and we're done. So the reading will be done soon. Oops, too many R's. I think I can stretch this into a 1. What are the two major groups of Islam? Okay, go ahead. That shouldn't be a tough one. Okay. Grab the eraser. Again, repeating, what are the two major groups of Islam? Just give me their names. You don't have to go into the different belief systems. Okay, on with the last part of the reading. Okay. Sunni orthodoxy placed strong emphasis on the majority view of the community. Over the years, this perspective provided them the opportunity to include matters that were outside the root teaching of the Quran. Thus, the Sunni have earned the reputation of being religiously and culturally diverse. The religious and political differences between Sunni Islam and Shia Islam have been fraught with enmity, which means anger, and dissension throughout history. Today, Iran is the bastion or stronghold of Shia Islam. It's the state religion, again, mixing the religion with the government. And the majority of Iranians are Shiites. Even so, people in Iran do practice other religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and even Zoroastrianism, an ancient faith that predates Judaism even. Shia adherents or believers also live in Syria, East Africa, India, and Pakistan. Overall, Shiites comprise somewhere in the region of 80 million people, or a tenth of all Muslims. Shiites maintain that only those in the bloodline of Muhammad are the legitimate heirs of Islam. Shia Islam is often called Twelver because Iranians generally recognized only 12 imams or supreme religious leaders following the death of Muhammad. The 12th of these is Mahdi, the so-called hidden imam, who is still alive in some celestial or, like ghost-like state, a spirit. The Ayatollahs, highly respected scholars and teachers of Shia Islam, stand in for the Mahdi as they interpret the words of Muhammad. And as you can see, we've finished the reading. So let me move on to the last question, and we are done for today. Question 10. Okay, that looks good as a doozy. What is the most important religious practice for Shiites? So let me give you a minute on that. Okay, you think you got that? All right. So let me get the eraser and repeating what is the most important religious practice for Shiites. All right. Stop share. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so we're done for this week on Islam. Again, let me remind you that the following week will be the midterm. So take care on that. Enjoy your studies. And we're getting now close to, we've passed Halloween, so we're getting close to Turkey Day. So get your turkeys, okay? Thanksgiving's coming up. All right, see you then.